This is the 8th annual list of America's richest self-made women. And the theme this year was sort of persistence and entrepreneurial success in spite of the headwinds from the downturn in the stock market. Overall, as a group, these 100 entrepreneurs and executives and entertainers are worth about 6% less than last year when we did the list. So altogether, they're worth $111 billion. We had a bunch of people drop off because stock prices dropped or the value of private companies dropped. So, we've got interesting stories about women who are, building and starting and growing all kinds of companies. We've got 7 newcomers this year. One of them is Lucy Guo, who was on the Forbes under 30 list. She and a guy named Alexander Wang co-founded an artificial intelligence company called Scale AI. Lucy held on to her stake in Scale AI when she left the company in 2018. She's since founded a venture capital firm, Back End Capital. And then she started this spring a stealth Web3 company that she's building. She's worth $440 million and she is young. She's only 27 years old. Another newcomer is a woman who's not well known, but tied to very well-known people. Emma Grede has a tight role with the Kardashian folks. She is a co-founding partner of Kim Kardashian's shapewear and loungewear company Skims. She's the chief product officer there. Her stake in that company, where her husband is the CEO, I should say, is probably the biggest chunk of her net worth. She's also the CEO of a fashion line called Good American, and she's owns part of a company with Kris Jenner. Another newcomer to the list is Rachel Drury. Some of you may have read about her before in Forbes. She is the founder of a meal delivery service that is plant-based called Daily Harvest. And it's the company raised money from investors in the past year, which landed her on the list. She has a great story. She was sort of doing this as a side hustle while working another job. And when she got more customers who were not friends and family, and she made a go of it. So number 1 on this list for the 5th year in a row is Diane Hendricks. She's not really a household name, except for if you're a fan of this list. She is the co-founder of a roofing and building supply company called ABC Supply. She co-founded it with her husband, who sadly passed away in 2007. She is worth $12.2 billion. Revenues of the company really surged in 2021 amid this boom in housing. Number 2 on this list is Judy Faulkner, the founder of Epic, which is a electronic health records company that is private, and it owns a big chunk of that. She is worth $6.7 billion. So one of the things that's happened because the stock market rout that we had this spring, 2 of the women on the list who were billionaires a year ago, still on the list, but no longer billionaires. The first is Whitney Wolfe Herd, the CEO and co-founder of dating app Bumble. One other woman who I think deserves special attention is Betsy Cohen. She's new to the list this year. She's 80 years old, and she was one of the first women in the United States to co-found and become CEO of a bank. She's more recently been investing in finance through the SPACs, the special purpose acquisition companies that became so popular during the earlier part of the pandemic. We had 7 women that came back onto the list this year who had been on the list in prior years, fell off, and are now making a return. The most well-known of those is Reese Witherspoon, who's got this actress, famous actress, of course, but she's also become a director and an executive in her company, Hello Sunshine, which produced Big Little Lies and others. She's got investment in Hello Sunshine from outside investors. That increased the value of the company and put her back onto the list.
I want to start off by telling you something.
Okay.
I know you are the first Black female to make a Forbes under 30 cover.
It's really hard to be the first something in 2022. So I want to be bigger than just my music. Like, I want people to know Megan as everything that she ever wanted to be. Megan, the artist. I feel like I've always liked to dibble and dab in a lot of different things. And I feel like I got that from my mom and my dad. My dad was a street guy He was an entrepreneur. He had his own clothing line. My mother, like, I watched her go to work to her 9 to 5 every day and come home and write songs and take me to the studio and be a mom and be just a good woman in general. Like, it was just like a long line of like women that I saw work and just do everything that they wanted to do and still pour into me that I could be Megan Thee Stallion, I could be creative, I could be Megan the student, I'm gonna get my degree. My big mama, she didn't care about me rapping. She was just like, you gonna get that degree. And I'm like, I am gonna get my degree. I had 2 plan A's. Rapping was not a plan B and school was not a plan B. Now I feel like my mind is just like that. My mind is in a place where I feel like I can do whatever I wanna do because nobody ever told me I couldn't.
Absolutely.
So getting into writing, getting into directing, getting into acting, I feel like, yeah, now y'all see, I'm not one-dimensional. I'm everything that I say I am.
So tell me, you know, the new CD or new project just dropped. I'm old school. I still say CD. That's
okay.
Just me, right?
Yes,
but
my CD.
the project is
I'm
out.
selling CDs too.
There you go.
Yeah.
You know, so what's it been like?
This album was really personal to me. This is like the first time I ever, you know, talked about things that I'm feeling or talked about things that I'm going through. So it kind of made me nervous to, you know, write a lot of these songs. It makes me nervous to perform some of these songs. And I kind of just was like, okay, I'm gonna write this stuff and I'm gonna just put it out. Hotties, what you gotta say about this? My emotions sometimes make me a little nervous. Like, to be vulnerable can make me a little nervous sometimes. So I don't know. I feel like I'm just still processing how the album feels to other people.
Yeah.
So I did 2 meet and greets, one in New York and one in California, and all of the hotties were coming up to me like, Megan, I relate to anxiety so much. Megan, I relate to ungrateful. Megan, you made this song for me. And I'm like, oh wow. It made me feel happy that the time I did decide to be vulnerable and talk about something I was going through, it was one of the favorites from all of my fans. And I really appreciate it, and they made me feel comfortable, like, okay, it's okay to not be okay, and it's okay to tell y'all I'm not okay.
What's the biggest thing you've learned about the business side of music?
Save your money. Like, I still haven't made a stupid, crazy purchase. Like, my jewelry is expensive and my house was expensive, but like, outside of that, I'm not buying 100 cars. Like, as soon as I started getting money, I spent it on school. Yeah. Like, and then when I got done paying for school, then that's when I started like buying chains and like stuff like that. But like, you should learn about how to make your money work for you. I feel like that was important for me to share with other people that are like my age and other Black kids, like, because I feel like sometimes when you think about investing, the terminology that people use, it makes it sound so hard. Like, and I feel like when you're talking to your homegirl or when you're talking to somebody that you can understand and speak your same language, okay, well, I understand that. I can get into investing too. So I feel like it was important for me to talk to my fans about it because you'll understand it coming out of my mouth.
Yeah. Go back to your younger self, right? Maybe before it blew, maybe before you got the record deal, all that. What do you tell your younger self, knowing what you know now? Go back in time. What do you tell young Megan people?
You need to keep doing exactly what you're doing because this is gonna pay off, girl. Like, do not stop dancing in the mirror. Do not stop writing songs. Don't stop stealing your mama instrumentals. I would just tell myself, keep doing you because it's gonna pay off.
Emma Grede is probably best described as the Kardashian family's favorite business partner. She's played a crucial behind-the-scenes role in helping them transition from reality television into the business world, and she's helped them start 3 companies, including Kim Kardashian's shapewear brand Skims and Good American, the denim company that she started with Khloe Kardashian. Grede grew up as one of 4 daughters to a single mother in East London. And as she describes it, she was always extremely interested in fashion, and she would save her money from odd jobs like doing a paper round to buy fashion magazines. When she was in her early 20s, she got into the London School of Fashion, but she couldn't afford to complete her education there. So she got a job at a fashion show production company. And while working at the fashion show production company, she came up with the idea for her first business, independent talent brand, which connected fashion designers with funding.
You know, it's so interesting because being in fashion, what I was seeing is that I just learned so much more doing these work experience placements than I was getting from the college experience. And you know, it was just one of those things where I made that decision, and I look back on it, you know, I think that there are reasons to stay in college, of course, having that security of an education. But for me, I just felt like, you know what, I just need to hit the ground and get in and meet people and network.
While working in the fashion industry, Emma kind of realized that there was a need for a diverse, both in terms of size and racially diverse fashion company, because she felt like a lot of companies were trying to do it, but it was more for show than it was genuine. So she came up with the idea for Good American, and she had gotten to know Kris Jenner from just being part of the fashion show scene. And Kris said that she should take it to Chloe, and together they founded Good American in 2016. And they claim that when they launched, they had the most successful denim launch in history. They've expanded into different categories like swimwear and shoes, and the company has just been growing and very successful.
What we do is work in this incredible size range. So we're creating clothing for all women all the time, from a size 00 to a plus size 30. And there's nobody else out there actually doing that. And also this important part about really never sacrificing fashion for the sake of inclusivity. We're making clothes that women really want to wear that they can't get elsewhere. And that's what's so great about that business. We're actually serving a really underserved market.
Emma was approached by Kim Kardashian about Skims in 2019, and because she had just created Good American with Chloe, it felt like a natural fit for her to join Skims. And she currently works as the Chief Product Officer. Her husband, Grede, is the CEO of the company. And so together they kind of manage the day-to-day operations as well as the design and merchandising for the company. She's also the chairwoman of the 15% Pledge, and that was founded after the murder of George Floyd in May 2020. It's a commitment from retailers like Sephora to pledge at least 15% of their shelf space to Black-owned businesses and entrepreneurs.
What's so incredible about the pledge is that we've created $10 billion of opportunity for Black-owned businesses, with the likes of Nordstrom, Sephora, Ulta, Bloomingdale's, all having taken the pledge. And it's meaning that so many more entrepreneurs are getting access to wholesale, to retailers that they may have otherwise been overlooked. And so I just think that, you know, for me, we talk so much about DE&I in our businesses, about, you know, diversity, about inclusion. And, you know, it's time that businesses put their money where their mouth is. If you actually want to make a difference, there are so many great businesses out there that we can interact with and that should be on the shelves.
And she also was a guest judge on Shark Tank. So if you're not in the fashion industry, you may recognize her from there. One thing I think is important to highlight about the story of Emma is that, you know, a lot of celebrities launch businesses and most of them are not successful because it takes more than just, you know, a whole bunch of Instagram followers to be successful. So Emma seems to have found this perfect recipe of collaborating with these influencers, but also they have a business partnership where they're both bringing equal amounts of work and commitment to the table, and that's why these businesses seem to be working.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You're on the list.
I'm so excited about this.
I am too.
When you guys called and said that you wanted me to be a part of it, I was really thrilled, because that's a great accomplishment for anybody over 50 years old, right?
I think so. I think we've discovered there are so many women in their 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s having their greatest impact in these years.
Yeah, it's really impressive. I just came from a fashion show here in New York, and I was sitting with Martha Stewart, and every time I see her, I'm inspired, I'm impressed, it gives me hope that, you know, in a couple years when I'm her age, that I'm still gonna be doing what she's doing. And she's sitting there at this show multitasking. We're talking about Christmas trees and what she's doing for the holidays and her business, and it just made me so happy, and it gives me, you know, another breath of fresh air. You know what I mean?
She's always starting new businesses and having new ideas, and there's no stop to it. If I'd have known the reaction I was going to get from my daughters, I would have begged for this interview a lot earlier. So they're very excited.
Well, here we are.
Here we are.
Here we are.
Girls, I did it.
Thanks, girls, for the support.
So seriously, my platform, Know Your Value, when we got together with Forbes to create this list, what we discovered is it's actually a wonderful message for younger women. What's your advice to younger women who feel so rushed? Like there's a clock ticking on their lives and their career.
Right. I think, well, you know, from my generation, there was always a clock ticking about having a baby, getting married, starting a family, and you were sort of considered an old maid if you weren't married and pregnant by 30.
Absolutely.
And that was really interesting and just so crazy now when I think back about that, because you know, I have so many daughters and they're 2 different generations, you know, 5 daughters, a couple different generations, and everybody's doing everything a decade later now in today's day and age, and even then some. So I think that all the boundaries that we feel like that other people have set for us are imaginary at this point, and I think people are finding their own power and their own way of doing things. And I think that that in and of itself is very powerful. And
really
you know
is.
what? It gives a lot of other people hope that there is no rush. I started doing my show, imagine, when I was like 51 years old, 52 years old by the time it got on the air. And it's been one of the most rewarding chapters of my life. This is my you know, people often say, well, you know, what are you doing this for? Well, guess what? I get to get up every single day and work with my family and create something new every time that we get together. And the creation of all the content, like everybody calls it now, it's joyful at this point. It's a lot of work, and you have to know what you're doing, and eventually we figured it out, but it's been a great journey.
Did you have any idea that the show would be the success it is today?
You know, you always hope that anything you're putting your hard work and heart and soul into, that it's successful. And I think that it was always the hope that we would even get picked up for season 2. So when we were in the middle of filming season 1 and we got the call from the network that we had been picked up for season 2 and we hadn't even finished, you know, and then got the news that there would be no break, we're just gonna keep filming. We kind of took a deep breath and went, okay, you know, this is what this is like, because it was foreign territory.
So you coined the term momager. Okay. And you've said that you're the family CEO, right?
I am.
Okay. And you're paid a 10% manager's fee on the gross income from your family's deals. That's pretty good, Kris.
Well, you know, when we started working together, there was no formal agreement per se, and we were trying to figure things out. And I knew by talking to everybody in town, and I knew so many people, and I have a network of friends and family that are in the business. And most managers and those type of people, agents, are getting between 20 and 25%, sometimes 30.
Of the gross, I know.
And so I said to my kids, look, I'm gonna put my heart and soul into this. I'm gonna work hard, and I'll take 10% because that'll make it worth my while. I'm not gonna charge you the industry standard, which I thought was super fair. And then I knew that in order to get anything, I knew how hard I was gonna have to work, and just wanted to make sure that I didn't need to get a day job.
So you were like, kids, I'm giving you a deal. Here we go, 10%. That's a deal.
What a deal. That's right.
I'm interested in knowing when you realized you were the head of a business enterprise and not just a family.
The first time I really started building an infrastructure, you know, and got the right people in the right positions, and an in-house counsel, and, you know, just all of the necessary folks and team members to make the machine, you know, work. And it, you know, whether or not you're there, you know, making every single decision, we needed to first build the infrastructure and make sure that we were doing all the things that, you know, the girls wanted out of a business. And there's a lot of them, and then me and my son. So there's 7 of us, you know, that we had to sort of structure a business. And you start throwing spaghetti against the wall. Like in the beginning, we were like, oh, let's try this or let's try that. And, you know, you finally figure out that really what was working was the things that the girls were most passionate about. And creating those kind of businesses really, you know, was very successful for us and really resonated in how much joy and fun you're getting out of it too, because it can't just be a grind constantly. That's just not healthy.
It's so much work. And you guys have gotten to the point where you have so much power and so much influence. And I think it's safe to say that much of the American public, and a lot of women of all ages actually, look at your family as a model, like what to wear, what kind of makeup to use, how to use it, how to present yourselves. And a lot of that influence happens on social media, which is something that is really, we've all kind of evolved with it over the past decade, for better or for worse. Right. And the data has shown now, we're learning that a lot of time on social media for young girls has been linked to depression, body image issues, self-esteem issues. How do you view the family business responsibility in this ecosystem as we are learning so much?
Well, so that's a really a big question. I think that, I'll start with this. I think that when we first started our show, there was no Instagram, there was no Snapchat, there was no TikTok, there was barely Twitter. And Kim was really the first one who got on Twitter and taught the rest of us how to navigate the community and everything that was going on. And she was really the first one that I knew about that learned how to communicate with the followers and the fans and the people that watch the show, and really use it as a tool, like a marketing tool, but also to find out what they were really interested in. And so in the early days, she would go on and ask, I'm gonna do this fragrance packaging, what color should I do? And they would, give a lot of input, and she would actually follow their advice, and it became this really successful tool for us. And as Instagram evolved and as it got more, the more millions, hundreds of millions of followers, you started as a family. We have over 1 billion followers right now. And with that comes a lot of responsibility, because people do look up to the girls and they really do follow their advice, whether it be fashion or, whatever else that we're doing, and just the creative aspect of what the girls love to put out there. But we feel very, responsible, but also pay attention to what we're posting and when we're posting it. We've learned a lot of lessons along the way. Yeah, and in real time. And we learned don't post where you are, but also, we like to post really aspirational things and things that make people feel good, and things that show people, fun experiences that we've had, show people our respect when there's a global event that happens, like when the Queen has just passed away, and we were able to pay our respects to that, and able to celebrate holidays online and show happiness and some funny things. And I think it's a blend and it's a mix. And I think if you start to get, I know a lot of people, the social media platforms have become dangerous. And for young people, I have 12 grandchildren, and I worry about that. And what I worry about is how negative and dark and nasty people can be, and it can really be very upsetting. I can be on social media and get 5,000 messages about, how fabulous somebody might think you look or act or whatever, like positive messages about anything. And then one person says, you're awful, or, I won't, say
something
it
worse,
here, like
and
really
it
bad.
Cuts you to the core.
And it does, it's nasty. And I grew up in a generation where my grandmother always taught us, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. That's how I was raised. So to have people that you've never met, that can just say whatever they want. And I think we have really thick skin as a family. We're used to it and we can handle it. But there's a lot of people out there that are really affected by nasty messages, and it's very powerful in the worst way. And that's what I worry about for my children, my grandchildren, other people, the world's children, because people do have, there's been a history of, you know, mental health problems and suicides and, you know, just horrible things going on for people that don't really, people don't realize how powerful their words can be, and they really have to think before they post.
Do you have, I have a, you know, my Know Your Value platform teaches women to know their value and communicate it effectively. It has a lot to do with negotiating. Any keys, any tips that you have to negotiating effectively? Like how do you do it?
Well, if somebody says no, you're talking to the wrong person. That's always my motto. But I think in a negotiation, a great negotiation is when both sides win. If you can give a little and they can give a little and you can come to terms. You know, it's interesting you asked me this question because I had a meeting this morning with somebody that we were negotiating with for one of my daughters about 1.5 years ago. And it didn't go great because both sides were unhappy. And we had a meeting this morning and he looked at me and I looked at him and we both just said, that didn't go well, did it? Let's start over. And we both
pressed reset.
And we pressed reset today on something that was really special and that meant a lot to one of my girls. So that taught me a lesson. Like, you know, I wasn't willing to back down. He wasn't willing to back down. But then we both came to the table today and said, you know what, I can live with that if you can live with this. And so when you know, can do that with somebody, I think you really have to take a deep breath if it gets heated and be rational. And I think that I have learned not to be so impatient these days, the older I get.
Let it play out a little bit.
Yeah, that song my granddaughter sings, patience, patience.
I need some.
Yeah.
You've been described as one of the most powerful people in Hollywood. Do you feel that you're at the peak of your power? Is there more to come?
I hope so. I never want to think that, you know, you've exercised everything that you have. I think that to feel like there's a lot more to come and there's more chapters is very exciting for me and it inspires me. And that's why I love listening to other people's stories. I love to watch the masterclass series. I love to watch documentaries. I love to hear about people's journeys because I think that we can, as women, can not only empower each other and inspire each other, but I feel like I have a responsibility to show my grandkids and my children what getting older looks like. You know, and some days I don't feel like showing anybody what getting older looks like because I'm tired or I'm, you know, it's a Sunday and I want to do nothing. So you have to learn how to like give yourself that gift of relaxing once in a while, but also I think that it rejuvenates me. Like it gives me a little bit more energy to go out and try something new. And I love trying new things and learning new stuff, and my kids keep me inspired. And I think that the advice that I would give to anybody over 50 is to say, if you don't have 300 kids like I do and that you have to keep going, is like the friends that you make, like look around and look at who your circle is and try to surround yourself with people that you can learn from and you can, you know, be a buddy with, whatever it is. You know, whatever that you know, whatever it is that you love to do, find somebody else in your life, make a new friend, find some new people around you that like to do the same kind of thing. And it makes life more interesting and more joyful, more exciting. And you can do anything that you set your heart to. You just never give up.
So with everything, the products, the new ventures, the shows, the lines, for Kris Jenner, what's it all about? What's it for? What do you want your legacy to be?
I think my legacy is that at this age, I was a great mom and I'm a good grandmother. That's all that really matters. I mean, let's face it. It's just families first to us always. And I think that that will always be why we do what we do. My goal in life when I had kids and they became teenagers and young adults, was that every single one of them had something that they found they were passionate about.
That's great.
And that I could help them achieve that as something that could be their life and their own legacy, and something that they could make a living at, so that they could be on their own, you know, sustain their lifestyle, whatever they wanted to do, whatever their dream was. And so one by one, that's the dream for me.
Thank you so much.
Oh my gosh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
In the beginning, when I opened my first store in Venice, I had no money at that point, so I literally put my personal stuff on the walls, my personal record collection, my personal skateboards, and I painted everything myself because I had no budget for that. So I don't know, it's just this whole kind of part of the brand and my passion and the lifestyle that I think, you know, leaves people feeling good. I'm Paige Mykoski. I'm the founder and president of Aviator Nation. Aviator Nation is a lifestyle brand that ultimately was created to bring people together and make quality clothing in America that makes you feel comfortable and good about yourself. Fashion is honestly probably one of the most competitive businesses out there. I think for me, the Made in America thing is a huge part of that, because most companies, even the companies that start out with Made in America, end up taking it overseas. And now that I've done this for 16 years and I'm still making it in California, where it's very expensive obviously to make clothes, you know, I think that that makes me feel like I'm doing something different and better than a lot of other companies. I was actually living in California and I was working in a surf shop and I was doing photography freelance. I thought photography was my path, but it was when I was working in the surf shop and I was around clothing all the time that I realized I had such a crazy passion for the clothing. And I would look at clothes and I'd be like, I like that, but I want it to be this color. I want it to have a different design. And I just became kind of obsessed with it. And so I bought a sewing machine and just started making clothes for myself, and I would stay up late at night after work and literally sew for hours trying to get the fit right and the design right. And it wasn't just a fun little hobby, it was truly a passion, and I became kind of obsessed with it. Once I had it to where I thought it was perfect, then I started selling it at a street festival. And so that first time that I sold it at the festival, I think I paid like $500 for the booth, and I ended up making $8,000 in one day at a street fair. So pretty much immediately I was like, I need to quit my job at the surf shop and just focus on this. If I can make $8,000 in one day, there's a business here. Fred Siegel was this store in Santa Monica that really took a chance on new designers. And so one day I rolled in like my rack of clothes that I had literally sewn in my garage, and the buyer was blown away. She was like, I love this, it's amazing. She bought everything, and she placed an order for close to $9 grand. And literally one weekend went by. She called me on Monday morning and she said, Paige, everything's sold out. We need more, we need to figure this out. Like, we need regular deliveries. I immediately went downtown and I went door to door in factories, starting to look for sewers and build my team. In the beginning, having no experience and no formal training and just kind of doing it the way that made sense to me, drawing it by hand, you know, ended up going into the early designs, and people loved that about the clothes. They loved that it was a little bit imperfect, you know, and it wasn't computer-generated graphics, which is pretty much what most people do. My thing was I really wanted the clothes to look vintage. The machines that we use for screen printing are different than what most people use, so we don't use all the fancy new techniques. Most companies would send garments through a basic wash process that, you know, takes like 20 minutes or something like that. I mean, our stuff is in the wash for like an hour and a half. And that's what I'm passionate about, because I want it to feel vintage when you're buying it. When I decided to start opening more stores, I wanted to make sure that the store was really, you know, it had posters and memorabilia and stuff from the actual community. So, for example, we're here in the Austin store. There's a lot of albums of artists that are from here. There's posters of Willie Nelson and Dazed and Confused. These are like iconic figures that came from Texas. It definitely makes each store super unique and special to the community that it's in. Watching other companies and watching the quality kind of go backwards, I think I always, told myself I never want that to happen. I want our quality to just get better. There's corners you can cut every day to make a lot more money. But if you're focused on the quality, like the customers are gonna stay and they're gonna grow and they're gonna tell their friends. And that's what ultimately really makes us successful. The reality is, as an entrepreneur, what you start is about to become your entire life. So if you don't love it, this is gonna suck for you. You know what I mean? So like, start with what you love to do and then try to make that your business, because it's going to be your life. And then the money and all of that just comes, because if you're doing what you love, people see that and they want to be part of that. The money will come. Forget about the money.
Hey everybody, I'm here with Lori Coulter, the co-founder and CEO of Somersault. Lori, thanks for joining us.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Let's take it all the way back. Where did you grow up and kind of what were you into as before college?
So I grew up in a very small town in southern Missouri, 6,500 people, and I was into anything that my high school offered. So everything from tennis to track to cheerleading to Future Business Leaders of America.
So very active, all the clubs, you name it. What did you think about when you were growing up in that small town? Did you ever envision what you might do in life, whether it was a career, a field?
Yeah, I was always very interested in business, and in fact, participated in a lot of economics and business-oriented types of curriculums and competitions. And it just so happened in my small town, one of the more successful enterprise banking software companies was based there, and they service small and mid-sized banks around the country. And I was really influenced by their journey from, early on the NASDAQ to really eventually being a $7 billion plus company. Oh, okay. And I saw that happen in my own life, in my own community, and thought, maybe I could do it someday.
And what was the kind of spark to, your fashion brand Somersault?
My earliest business in my professional career, I had a partnership with a major retailer doing digital body scanning and made-to-order apparel. So really working at the intersection of tech and fashion and data at an early date. We were able to scan 10,000 women, but not just scan them, we actually made a swimsuit for each of them and had that one-to-one feedback loop that really still informs Somersault's fit to this day. We also mastered quick turnaround manufacturing. So think Hero Fabrics, construction clusters, and we own that fit down to the nth degree still at Somersault.
So that experience, got you into like the tech and got you obviously into the swimwear. When did you decide to, okay, I'm going to go out on leave this company and go out on my own and start my own thing?
Yeah, in June of 2016, I was considering my next steps, and I met my now co-founder, Reshma Chatteram-Chamberlain, who owned a digital agency and had been working with some of the early entrants to the direct-to-consumer space. I went away from that conversation thinking, I think there's a real opportunity. Wrote the initial business plan and strategy for what is now Somersault, developed a collection. Ironically, we understood the economics day one, had the supply chain really built out, and then I went back to hire her agency in December of 2016. We joined forces in early 2017, and the rest is really, really history.
Wow. Kind of going into, you starting the company, what were some of the, maybe diversions, pivots, challenges that you kind of overcame and helped, shape the company and kind of evolve?
Yeah, one of our interesting, facts is we're based in St. Louis, Missouri. So you can imagine 2 women founders selling swimsuits out of St. Louis, Missouri. It just,
Not a beach town.
It's not a beach town. And then really teaching kind of, regional investors what's happening in the direct-to-consumer revolution, 5 years ago almost now. We only raised $625,000 to get off the ground, so not particularly well funded. And what's fascinating is we knew almost day one that we had captured lightning in a bottle, which I think is just so fascinating. It was clear, consumers, influencers, media, that we were onto something. And the brand, the product, all came together just beautifully and took off from day one.
How about takeaways? So you've been through this whole journey. What would be your top advice if entrepreneur came to you and said, listen, I'm looking to leave my job and do a startup or get into retail or e-com, just what are kind of your top tips?
So number one is focus, and focus on what's appropriate for that stage of the business and gets to you to the next level, accomplishes what you need to accomplish. So much of what we do as startup founders, there's a lot of noise and a lot of distractions and a lot of advice that may not be directly related to the outcome you're looking to achieve. So the ability to edit out what is not important is almost more important than focusing on that objective. Saying no is everything. And then the other thing is just make sure you're not getting in your own way. Just paint the biggest picture of what you want to accomplish and go for it unapologetically.
I'm not a chef. I have no culinary skill. I learned how to bring people together through food, and I've been doing that for a very long time. I was always a business owner. Not the one on paper, but I was always a business owner. I used to sell frozen cups where you freeze the juice in the foam cup and then you sell it. People knock on the door. I used to sell that. Outside of the parties, I used to sell McChickens. I would go to McDonald's and buy McChickens for $1 and come back and sell them for $2. I would sell anything that I could because I'm a hustler, and they used to call me Hustle Man because I literally would find ways to create things that people needed. And when I realized that I can create a need for people and I could be their supplier, I knew that there was a big win for me. And then I got a mouthpiece out of this world, so I could get people to buy anything that I'm selling, and it always worked as a kid. I was born and raised in Baltimore, Maryland. My father, the day that I was born, he was being sentenced to 30+ years in prison. So I grew up in a household with my mother and my siblings. And she worked every day. She was a workaholic. Maybe that's where I get it from. But she worked at McDonald's. She was on payroll. She's a lead singer of a reggae band. And I saw that my mother really never rested. But she always made sure that we had what we needed, not always what we wanted. So I learned how to be a hustler and not beg anybody for anything and always get it on my own because I saw how hard my mother worked. My father was also an entrepreneur, just wasn't a legal one. And he literally did what he could to provide a way for his family as well. So I've always been in that entrepreneur world. Growing up, I used to sell candy, food, everything you could think of because I just had that itch. I was 14 having high school parties, and I can remember calling rec centers and facilities acting like an adult so that I could secure the venue to have parties. And I used to bring out 1,000 people every single week that would come to my parties. And I remember counting like $4,000 on the floor with my mother every other week. And that was something that I've never seen before because here I am, I'm a teenager. I'm just getting out of my preteens. And my mother helping me to count money, making more than my mother at a young age. And I realized that entrepreneurial life is the life that I need to live, and the rest is in history. As a Jamaican, food was always big. I laugh about eating rice and peas every single day of the week. But I always had a home-cooked meal. And although my mother wasn't home all of the time because she was working, my grandmother was in the house, so she taught me how to cook. She was a baker, I didn't get that part down. But she was just the person that just taught me how to make flavor taste good. And I learned so much from her. And I grew up in a household with a mother who was a vegetarian, so I grew up just eating fish. So after I graduated college, I got into TV and I was really good at it. And it afforded me the opportunity to move to New York City, where I became a producer on a few shows, saved up my 401k. And I opened up my first restaurant. It was called Pinky's Jamaican and American Restaurant. And the restaurant did seemingly well, had lines down the block, but fortunately and unfortunately, I lost that restaurant to a grease fire, but I'm glad it happened because what it did is it took me out of that restaurant so that I can focus on other things. I was only supposed to come to Atlanta for 3 months. And when I came to Atlanta, that's when I came up with Slutty Vegan. And that Slutty Vegan concept literally started in my bedroom, my 2-bedroom apartment in Atlanta. And after I came up with that concept, I had no idea that it would turn into a $100 million brand. I hired like 3 chefs to come to my house to make food. The original concept was supposed to be called the Jackfruit Cafe. I was gonna make everything with jackfruit. And then the chef came to my house and it was disgusting. And I'm like, okay, well, I can't do this. So what am I going to do? So I was working with the shared kitchen, and they recommended me a company called Impossible. And they said that there's this new company called Impossible Foods. They make vegan burgers. They taste really good. Do you want to sample it? I'm like, sure. So I tasted the burger and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so good. I'm going to make burgers and fries. I made the sauce from scratch. I was just playing, throwing stuff in a bowl, mixing it. And I made like a Thousand Island kind of dressing from scratch. And then I made a fry seasoning from scratch, just throwing stuff together in a bowl. And I came up with the recipes and I put them on this burger. I'm not even a chef. I just like to eat. And it worked. And not only did it work in a major way, like people from around the world go crazy about our secret sauce. People from around the world go crazy about our fry seasoning. You don't have to be an expert. You don't have to be somebody who's doing it for years. As long as you got a creative hand and a creative mind, you literally can make something so spectacular that people crave every single day. But I realized that we created a phenomenon. We created something that people had an appetite for, and I'm not talking about the food. People wanted to be a part of this movement, and that movement allowed me the opportunity to open up my first brick and mortar. That dream afforded me the opportunity to open up additional locations and to eventually raise $25 million to be able to scale and grow my business. So all of these things we've been doing in a grassroots way to grow this company, and now here we are on our way to be a $1 billion brand. I used to just be that person like, oh, I want to do this idea, but I don't have the resources, I don't have the information. Now, it ain't nothing that I can't do. So when you ask me, when do I know I'm going to make it? I don't know. I'm just doing the work and just having fun while I'm doing it.
Tyra Banks here. I'm the founder of Smize Cream, an innovative ice cream company that has a yummy hidden surprise in every container. A skill that I have mastered is differentiation. How to look at the marketplace and go, what's not here yet? How can I be different? How can I create something that's different? So how can you dig deep into differentiation? How can you differentiate yourself, your product, or your service? It's all about research, baby. You have to canvas every little thing. Who's your competition? Who's not your competition? How can you be inspired by a whole different company or sector that's not even yours? So study all the people that are like you, all the companies that are like you, and go, okay, how can I be different? Then look at totally different sectors and pull from that, plop it onto yours. Got your differentiation, baby.
Emma, thank you so much for joining us. We're so thrilled to be with you here today.
Thank you, I'm so happy to be here.
So take us to the beginning. You've been an entrepreneur and a fashion lover from a very young age. You actually started your paper route when you were 12 and used it to buy fashion magazines, right?
It's so true. I'm a fan of fashion, first and foremost. You know, I loved everything about fashion growing up in London, the supermodels and the designers, and I was just infatuated with it. But I actually never thought that I would start a fashion business. I knew I wanted to work in fashion, but
you interned at Gucci, right?
Yeah, I did. It's really interesting. You know, I interned at Gucci. I interned at a lot of places. I feel like I've had a lot of jobs before getting to where I am right now.
But you also dropped out of college along the way, right?
Yeah, you know, it's so interesting because being in fashion, what I was seeing is that I just learned so much more doing these work experience placements than I was getting from the college experience. And you know, it was just one of those things where I made that decision, and I look back on it, you know, I think that there are reasons to stay in college, of course, having that security of an education. But for me, I just felt like, you know what, I just need to hit the ground and get in and meet people and network. And fashion is still a little bit like that business. You know, there's no formalized education that is going to bring you into, you know, the world of fashion.
The industry,
and so for me, that was just my path, and it worked out.
Yeah, no, there's definitely two schools as an entrepreneur. There's the MBA path, and there's the master's, and then there's the life MBA path, which is what you chose.
It's so true.
Fast forward to today, you're at the helm of 3 global powerhouse businesses, and Forbes, our publication, recently named you one of America's richest self-made women. So you're the CEO of Good American, founding partner of Skims, and also work on Safely with Kris Jenner. So tell us a little bit about your day-to-day, how you prioritize juggling all three of those businesses, and you know, how tremendous that success has been.
Well, you know what, it's the part I like about it is the self-made part, right? I've been working, as you quite rightly say, I've had a job since I was 12 years old and I really haven't stopped. And, you know, I've worked really hard to be in the position that I am now with these businesses. I'm extremely fortunate to have the business partners that I do in Chloe and Kim and Kris, because they are the most incredible entrepreneurs themselves. But above all, you know, what my role is first of all, it's different in each company. You know, at Good American, I'm the day-to-day CEO. At Skims, I work actually as the Chief Product Officer. And at Safely, I'm in a completely different role again, because we have an incredible CEO with a lot of consumer experience that runs that business. And so I'm much more on the product and ideas and marketing side of that business. But you know, for me, what I love is product. I like creating, I like ideas, and you know, I happen to be very good at really just knowing what I don't know. I'm very good at surrounding myself with great teams and great people, and so no day looks the same for me. You know, it's like nobody speaks to me when things are going well. It's always about, you know, problem solving and troubleshooting, and we're now in this like incredibly unique time coming out of COVID, you know, with the issues that we have with inflation, with supply chain. All of our businesses are affected by all of those things, and so it's been a very unique 2 years. And you know, for me, I'm still learning every day, which is, you know, one of the things that I thrive on, really being able to, you know, constantly learn and constantly evolve as an individual. That's why I kind of love my role so much.
Yeah, and I mean, we do have to speak to the tremendous success that we saw with Good American, right? It's named one of the most innovative companies, and you were named to Time's most influential list as well. But on day one, I think there was $1 million in sales, right? Can you tell us a little bit about what that experience was like, and what kind of led, what do you think, you know, there's an element of luck and being in the right place at the right time, but there's a lot, like you said, a lot of hard work. You've been working since you were 12 years old. So what were the building blocks or other lessons that business owners and founders can kind of take with them to, you know, try to recreate some of that success?
Well, I honestly believe that innovation is really key. What we do at Good American is different from any other fashion business out there. The way we approach product development is really thinking about fit and fabrication, and if we can't innovate in fit and fabrication, we shouldn't be in that category. What we do is work in this incredible size range. So we're creating clothing for all women all the time, from a size 00 to a plus size 30, and there's nobody else out there actually doing that. And also this important part about really never sacrificing fashion for the sake of inclusivity. We're making clothes that women really want to wear that they can't get elsewhere, and that's what's so great about that business. We're actually serving a really underserved market, and you know, people know that they can count on Good American. It's not something that we're doing as part of a quick campaign. It's not something that we're doing, you know, to just kind of say, hey, you know, we're box ticking. This is who we are all the time, and we have principles as a business. We make sure that our retailers carry all of the sizes all the time.
The whole suite, right.
That's really important. I think that our customers and the community of women that we served have learned that Good American is the real deal, right? They trust us. They know when they buy a pair of Good American jeans that they're going to fit, and they know we make things with their body and their curves in mind. And I just feel that, you know, we've started to, you know, have a reputation where we're just not ever going to sacrifice, and people really appreciate that.
So what lessons would you share to other founders today who are trying to push the envelope, but maybe are struggling because they're trying to get their brand out there in the beginning? Is there any way to kind of stay true to your integrity while also trying to gain access, either via capital from investors or through other means?
I do think so. You know, we're in such a unique time right now that, you know, there are incredible tools out there that allow us to create businesses from our bedrooms, right? To actually really embrace technology and all that that's bringing to us. And so I think that any solo entrepreneur really needs to think about all the tools at their disposal. And we're in an amazing time. I do know that coming out of COVID, so many people are struggling and that they're trying to pivot their businesses. But I also think that you've you've got to look for opportunity in every crisis, because there's so much opportunity out there right now. And so it's about finding the white spaces, finding what you want and can't find as a consumer, and then leaning into that. But technology is making that easier and easier every day.
And philanthropy is a big part of your mission with the 15% pledge. You're the chairwoman. Can you tell us a little bit about that? It's been a tremendous amount of success with a relatively short amount of time.
You know, it's so incredible because the 15% pledge is America's fastest growing nonprofit, and I'm particularly proud of it. I have to say it was not my idea. It was founded by an incredible woman called Aurora James. And the idea behind it is that, you know, black people make up nearly 15% of the population in America. And so we're really working with retailers to have them take 15% of their buy, their annual spend, and redirect that to black-owned businesses. What's so incredible about the pledge is that we've created $10 billion of opportunity for black-owned businesses, with the likes of Nordstrom, Sephora, Ulta, Bloomingdale's, all having taken the pledge. And it's meaning that so many more entrepreneurs are getting access to wholesale, to retailers that they may have otherwise been overlooked. And so I just think that, you know, for me, we talk so much about DE&I in our businesses, about, you know, diversity, about inclusion, and, you know, it's time that businesses put their money where their mouth is. If you actually want to make a difference, there are so many great businesses out there that we can interact with and that should be on the shelves. And there's also just, you know, so much, I think there's such an idea out there that, you know, black-owned businesses are perhaps only made for black people, when we know that just isn't the case,
it's
right?
also the fastest growing category. Black female founders are the fastest growing.
Founders, and they're making products that we all want every day, that we all need every day. And so just creating a little bit more of a pathway, because, you know, as we all know, you know, there's just not enough opportunity for everybody out there. And so what the pledge is doing is clearing that pathway and making opportunity way more accessible for those that need it.
You're also the first black female investor judge on Shark Tank.
I am.
Yeah, congrats. Tell us about that experience.
Well, you know, it's so interesting.
And why it appealed to you. You're not busy enough running 4 businesses,
Apparently
3 businesses?
not. Apparently I needed another thing to add to the businesses and the kids and the whole thing. You know, Shark Tank was an incredible opportunity for me, because it wasn't so long ago that I was actually out there trying to raise finance for my own business. And we know how hard that is for females, right? There are just not that many funds, not that many VCs actually, again, plowing money into female-founded businesses. And that shrinks even further when we look at black-owned businesses, black female-owned businesses, right? So it's like this kind of trickle down is just so
it's
sad.
the fastest growing, but yet the capital isn't there to support that.
It just isn't there to support it. And so in my way, I thought about Shark Tank as an opportunity, not only to invest in those businesses, but also to showcase them, to get more black people coming through on that show, that there are these like great ideas that will be great for everybody. And I'm really, really proud to say, you know, I made 5 or 6 investments on the show, all females, which was like so incredible. And it was a great experience for me, but great for those founders to get the exposure and the opportunity, and great to see that actually so many of the other sharks were investing in businesses by founders from all sorts of backgrounds. And so I was very, very, very happy with, you know, me turning up on that show and doing my small part.
So we're almost out of time. I like to end on a lightning round. So really quickly, if you could leave entrepreneurs with one of your fail-safe piece of advice, what would it be?
You know, it's, I think that my big piece of advice is you gotta have a thick skin, right? Coming out of the pandemic, being an entrepreneur, hiring people, firing people, the ups and the downs and everything that it brings, it's not all glossy. And I think that just having a thick skin and knowing that you're going to kind of get through things, that there are these like peaks and troughs and ups and downs, and that's all part of it. That's why, you know, being in love with your business is so important. Not just because you think you have a great idea, but you're gonna have really, really hard times. And so I think if you have a thick skin, you'll do well. You know, entrepreneurialism is not for the faint of heart.
Got it. And last question, what's one thing in your industry or not that's overhyped and one that's underhyped?
Oh, don't even get me started on crypto. You know, crypto is to me, you know, NFTs, I'm like, To me, like, no, I'm like, skip it. There's way better things to do with your money, like, I'm pretty sure. I tend to kind of like listen to the behemoths, and if Bill says it's a no, and Warren says perhaps pass, I'm going in that direction.
Smart.
It is underhyped. I mean, look, there's so many great businesses out there. I do think that I kind of come back to this idea about, you know, black-owned businesses. I think that they are really underhyped because there's this, you know, predisposition that they're just for black people. And I think that we could do a lot more hype and everybody can rally around black-owned businesses because they're for everyone.
Awesome. Well, Emma, thank you so much.
Thank you, my dear. It's so nice to meet you.